analysis of the news. Here's an interesting article. This comes from an email that was sent to us from a friend. Then a friend near Sydney rang and told me about a book free on the internet that is talking about the Egyptian Giza Authority are getting ready to reveal the greatest of all archaeological finds in front of a live TV. To open the tomb of Osiris, the greatest Egyptian god. And there's a book on the internet that goes into all of the ancient history of Osiris, and it seems they claim that he was the historic Nimrod. Wow, don't you know that would be a blockbuster if they uncovered the remains of Nimrod. Well, on a little sadder note, this one says that according to Israeli, United Nations, and Hezbollah officials, the Shiite militia is stronger than it ever was. In 2006, when it took on the Israeli army that killed 1,191 Lebanese and 43 Israeli citizens, Hezbollah has up to 40,000 rockets and is training its forces to use ground-to-ground missiles capable of hitting Tel Aviv and anti-aircraft missiles that could challenge Israel's dominance of the skies over Lebanon. Brigadier General Alon Friedman, the deputy head of Israeli Northern Command, told The Times from his headquarters overlooking the Israeli-Lebanese border that the peace of the past 3 years could explode at any minute. His concerns were due partly to threats from Hezbollah leadership. Last month, Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of the Hezbollah, warned that if southern suburbs of Beirut were bombed, as they were in the last war, that he would strike back against Tel Aviv, Israel's largest city. Of course, he's probably just chomping at the bits to do that anyway, because they've got rockets that will reach Tel Aviv now, whereas in the last war, they didn't. He said, "We have changed the equation that previously existed. Now the southern suburbs versus Tel Aviv, not Beirut versus Tel Aviv." Hezbollah's rearming is in the name of resistance against Israel. The real reason, however, according to this article, probably has more to do with its ally, Iran. If Israel carries out its threat to attack Iran's nuclear facilities, the main retaliation is likely to come from the Hezbollah in Lebanon. All sides agree that the threat was not a bluff. Last month, the scale of the Hezbollah buildup was revealed after an explosion of an ammunition bunker in the village of Kiryat Shlim, about 12 miles north of the Israeli border. Surveillance footage obtained by The Times showed Hezbollah fighters trying to salvage rockets and munitions from the site. Obstructions were placed in the way of United Nations peacekeepers who were going to investigate. Alan Leroy, the head of UN peacekeeping operations, told the Security Council last month that the explosion amounted to a serious violation of UN Resolution 1701, which imposed a ceasefire and arms ban after the war. Quote, "A number of indications suggest that the depot belonged to the Hezbollah, and in contrast to previous discoveries by UNIFIL and Lebanese armed forces of weapons and ammunition, that it was not abandoned, rather actively maintained," he said. And so we see that the Hezbollah and Lebanon are still planning some future war against Israel. Oh, by the way, they blame it's Israel's fault. That's what they claim. But you and I know that they wouldn't be building up 40,000 rockets if they didn't have plans to use them. Psalm 83 says, "For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance." That's the plan. And it will be carried out one of these days, but I want you to know that Israel has a secret weapon. His name is Yahweh. Our Englishized word is Jehovah. The Lord God himself will come to Israel's defense. When God promised in the pages of the Old Testament to bring Israel back in the last days, he said that they would never again be plucked up from their land. Well, that's what it sounds like. Israel is going to win. No matter what the odds, Israel will win. And when the Battle of Armageddon comes and it looks like Israel won't win, Jesus will show up to see that they win. And that's coming up soon. We don't know when, but we need to keep looking up. I'm J.R. Church. We'll see you again tomorrow with our analysis of the news.